One of the questions that people seem to ask a lot, if you are a producer, is how do producer points work? Now, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, if you're a record label owner, all this applies as far as I'm going to explain how producer points work as an entertainment attorney. I've just done this for a really long time, and I think there's misunderstanding. But the bigger piece of this is that for those of you who are producers, you don't know how you can take advantage of how this all works. So I'm going to explain it to you and give you all the goodies. Let's start with how the producer points work, and then I'm going to give you my pro tips at the end of the video, just telling you basically what I do for my actual clients to get them the best deals. So obviously the role of music producer has changed over time, and I would say now more than ever, music producers play such a critical role in the creation and the development of the song or the album or the EP. So it's not so much now that they're just kind of in charge of like embellishing what everyone else has done, but music producers are writing entire instrumental beds. They're coming up with vocal melodies, they're coming up with lyrics. Like, they are essentially doing a lot, if not all, of the work. And, as such, that's why these deals have changed a lot over the years. So, what are points? Points are percentages of earnings related to the music. So if you're a music producer, you work on a track and we say, hey, I want to give you 2 points in the song. What I'm saying is that I'm going to give you 2% of earnings, and it's typically net earnings. Net means all the monies that come in, but you take off and reimburse expenses first. Whatever is left over after that is net. So, in the definitions of how we define this in the contract is really important. But oftentimes, it will be net or gross. In the song earnings, right, there's think of the song in 2 vacuums. On one side, you have the earnings that come in from the master, which is going to be stuff like the streaming, the digital downloads, right? So it's the monies that come into the music distributor and is paid to whoever is distributing the song. And then on the other side, you have publishing. So the producer may or may not have an entitlement to, one or both categories, but it's important because there's money coming in on both sides. So if I'm representing you, I want to get you as much money as possible. So when we talk about the points, it's going to be, well, it's 2% or 10% of what? And again, it goes back to how do we define it, which we'll come back to. So now some factors that come into how we determine allocation of points. Of course, we have like producers, contribution, how much did you do? Okay, if you, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some not a lot of effort examples. So, whatever it is, producer maybe just kind of ended up coming in and like mixing and mastering, maybe, which is very important in itself as well. But maybe the producer didn't really do a lot and took a demo from someone else and just kind of polished it up. Or conversely, the producer did a ton. The producer, let's say, wrote the entire beat, did the production, maybe the producer even helped a little bit with the vocal melodies. The producer's contribution is one thing that we look at to start with, but we also, track record, your resume. I mean, it really does make a difference, okay? You just do have a little more negotiation power when you're like, hey, I did this thing for Bruno Mars. Hey, I did this thing for Lady Gaga. It helps. Okay. But, for me, the most important thing is not so much your resume. The most important thing is your contribution to the actual song or songs that we're negotiating for. But then, the whole like resume piece goes into your negotiation power. Do you have any negotiation power and stuff like your popularity, your social media following? Again, this all just kind of goes into negotiations. And then finally, on the point allocation, we also look at just industry norms. And this is the thing that people don't know the most. And it's, well, how much should I ask for? Is it okay that I ask for points? So let's go into practical application. So you're a music producer, and oftentimes, if you're like an indie producer working with indie artists, you have a ton more negotiation power because, you might be giving a homie a hookup on the front end. You're giving an indie rate for the artist. And so they are paying you less. So if they're paying you less, I would argue you should be getting more on the back end with your points or your percentage of earnings, right? Now, if you are one of 12 producers on a Beyonce song, you're getting maybe 1 to 2 points. All right. So, it does matter. What is the thing that you're working on? What's the industry norms? But by and far, a lot of you watching this, you're going to be more of like in the indie realm. And in which case I say you go in hard, right? So if you have given discounts, why shouldn't you get 50% of all revenues? Okay. And then you can kind of work backwards from there. And maybe you get to 25%. Maybe you go to 10%. But, one of our little pro tips, which I'll cover more at the very end, but I'll give it to you right now. Give me a like on the video. Let's go. But, shoot higher than what you actually want. Okay, so if you want 25%, ask for 35, ask for 40. So when they come back and they negotiate you down, you're like, all right, fine. So you land on 25%, you're happy because that's actually the number that you wanted. Okay, so now back to how we're gonna be really smart about this. We said, all right, there are the master earnings, the royalties that come in from that. There's the publishing. What are you entitled to? Now, of course, what you wanna argue, hopefully, is that you get a piece of both, right? Because if you helped to create the song, the composition, that's what publishing is tied to, and then the actual final recorded version, the master. So you should just argue you want, your points in all the revenues that are earned. Now, what I do if I'm representing, let's say, the record label or the artist, is that I'm always going to push back and I go, no. We don't want the producer to get one or both, and we'll try to negotiate down to the lowest rate. We'll try to get it so it's just, let's say, publishing, or maybe it's just the masters. So for you advocating for yourself, what you want to do is say, no, it should just be of all earnings that the song makes. Now, one thing I do see very commonly is that if, a label is coming in and they're buying the song from you, they might be willing to still give you some publishing, and they'll say, I'm going to pay you $3,000 for the beat, okay? And I'll register with, the PRO's, Performance Rights Organization, and give you whatever, back-end percentages. So this is where having someone, if you don't feel comfortable doing this yourself, and having someone to really advocate for you makes a difference, because you are literally negotiating your money. So now, I'm going to go into the pro tips of how you're going to do this and how you're going to negotiate this, and you're going to love it. So if you are finding this video helpful, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe, okay? We're giving free videos all the time to make you like an awesome music business person. All right, so pro tips. When it comes to negotiating, try to get some money up front. Okay, because if nothing happens with the music and it never makes money, all this squabbling over back-end points is, kind of pointless, and you don't make any money there. So don't just give away everything. Try to get some money up front if you can. But also, try to get something on the back ends, because you never know what could happen with a song. It goes viral. It's the next biggest thing. I can't tell you how many times this has happened, and the person was just paid some small amount of money up front, and they just hate themselves for the rest of their lives, okay? So try to suggest, if, for example, a label comes back and they go, no, I don't want you to have any kind of ownership in the song. I want to own it. That's really common, and I get it, right? So what you can do is you go, that's cool. I just want profit participation. So I don't want ownership. I just want to be able to participate in the revenues that come in, and then say the number that you want. And then also say you want that number from all profits. Not just publishing, not just the sound recording, not just the master. Try to get it from everything, because why wouldn't you? And then when it comes to the contract, because I know at this point, if you are watching this video, you're someone that takes your career seriously. If you take yourself seriously, you have to have contracts for everything that you do. And so in your producer contract, you need to make sure there are two things. Well, there's a lot of things, but check and make sure there's an accounting provision. When do they pay you? How do they pay you? Is there a threshold? And then the second piece of it is there the right to audit? Because, especially if we're making these deals based on potential back-end profits, it doesn't make sense if we don't have a way to double check, okay? So you double check by, they have to give you accounting statements to say what the money's was, what's owed to you. And then if they don't do that, they're in breach of contract, and you can audit, and they're required to let you actually look at their books. Okay, so this is an important piece. Obviously, there's other stuff that have to go in there as far as, who owns what, are they going to credit you, who has the right to promote and release, and all the things. But those are two that are really important. And finally, you need to make sure you're clear, and it's usually near the end of the contract. If there's a problem, if there's a dispute, where are you going to file the lawsuit? It usually says that, it should say that in your contract. So it should be where you're at, or where your attorney is based. Again, if there's a problem, there's a breach of contract, you need to do something. You don't have to go to a different, state on the other side of wherever, or on the other side of the planet. I don't even know where you got to go, but make sure that it's somewhere convenient for you. And I bring this up because I also have producers and songwriters who send me deals that they need reviewed. And let's say the other producer who is selling a beat to them is in a foreign country. And I go, that's fine, right? We can structure this and we can whatever, but realistically, if there's a problem and the choice of law is like Russia, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna have an issue, because then you have to go hire an attorney, and then you have to fly. You know what I'm saying? It's just ridiculous. So I go, this all plays into not just the contract, but also you making business decisions that are tied to money. All right, if you found this helpful, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.